Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Canon Chatter TV with me, Stephen, and I'm joined tonight by G. How are you, G?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm a bit tired because, like I was saying to you off air, I've been working from home today, but I'm on daddy duties as well. So I've been looking after the kids, cooked dinner, tidied the house because the missus obviously makes cakes, as you know, Stephen. But she drove down to London. Thank God she made it in one piece. But she's now stuck in London overnight just because obviously driving back in the dark is not really advisable given the weather. So yeah, I'm shattered. I'm shattered because I got to wake up and do a 9-hour shift as well tomorrow. So, but I'm excited about the game. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the show. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. Do you know what? I'm starting to feel a lot more like myself now. Obviously,
Yes.
as I'm sure most people know, I had my little fight with COVID over the last couple of weeks, um, and tested negative finally on, was it Monday? On Tuesday.
Good news. Good
Um,
news.
Back to work on Wednesday, and do you know what? I'm still the after effects. I'm still tired, lack of appetite, stuff like that.
Mm,
But do
yeah.
you know what? It was a rough sort of 10 days, as you know.
Yeah.
I'd obviously kept in contact with you, and there was a few times it was sort of a bit of a struggle. And when you're sitting there and you're thinking you're gonna have to call an ambulance, and you're thinking, is this the end? It's kind of
Yeah.
a bit daunting, but do you know what? It is what it is. I've got through it. I'm okay. Touch wood, that's going to be the last I get it, and I won't have to go through that again. So I'm glad. I've missed being on the shows.
We've missed
Obviously,
you, man. We've missed you as well.
I watched you and Lottie do the shows and stuff, and it was kind of, I wanted to be on chatting. There's so much to say, obviously, coming off the back of the transfer window and things like that, and I never got to really to have much of a say on it all.
Yeah.
So it's good to be back. Looking forward to the game tomorrow. Like yourself, I am working, but I'll try to catch it. I'll potentially have it on in the back office just in case I can sneak away for a few minutes here and there and catch a bit. But yeah, it should be a good game, and we'll get on to it in a minute. Plenty to get through tonight. Obviously, just you and me, no Lottie. Um, Lottie it's the anniversary. I think it's her granda's birthday. I think it is today. And he passed a few years back, and obviously she's just not feeling up to coming on and talking Arsenal tonight. But she'll be back with us next week, and we send our thoughts to her. But yeah, as I say, plenty of other stuff to get through since we were last on air. Plenty of things have happened. So, do you know what? We'll play the titles and we'll get into it.
Let's go.
Arsenal have gone through an entire league campaign without losing. The first time it's happened.
Okay, so as I say, welcome back to Canon Chatter TV. We're down in the Canon Chatter Arms for another lock-in, and a chance to have a wee drink. This is my first drink in a couple of weeks, and a chat about the Arsenal. So we'll go to the comments first of all, see who we've got in the chat. If you are watching, drop a wee hello. Morning all, looking forward to this one. Morning Scott, how are you? Hope you're keeping well. Riddy, hello. Scott, understand what you're talking about, Stephen. I'm on day 7 at the moment. Past the worst of it though, hopefully, Armid. I hope you're not feeling too bad. And thoughts with you, mate, that you get a wee negative result pretty soon. Really glad to see you back. Thank you. I'm really glad you're feeling better, Scott. Stay safe, everyone. Just on that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who reached out to me. Obviously, while I was off, I was loads and loads of DMs and stuff. On Twitter from folk wishing me well and things, and it was lovely. It's I always sort of say I'm really touched by how many friends we've made doing this, and especially the community that we're sort of building. I always talk about Canon Chatter being a family, and you guys that watch and tune in every week and interact on on Twitter and things. it's, to me, it's one big Cannon Chatter family, and the love that you guys show us means so much to us. It really does. So thank you for that, and thank you for those who reached out and took the time to send me a message and stuff. It really was appreciated, and it did, it did help massively. So yeah, and obviously I know, G, you've kind of hidden the fact that you tested positive as well. But obviously you weren't quite as sick as I was.
No,
thankfully.
not at all. Yeah, not at all.
And I'm glad for that. I really am. Evening, everyone. Great to see you better, Stephen. Mr. Sexy Face, mate. Thank you, Keith. Anybody who hasn't seen Keith's show from last night, I don't know if you had a chance to catch it yet, G.
No, I've retweeted and liked it, but I'm due to catch up with it soon.
Yeah, do you know what? Keith started a new series last night on his channel, mostly Arsenal, on Legends. And his first one was on Ian Wright. And honestly, I messaged him last night to tell him, absolutely fantastic, Keith. Brilliant piece of content. So when this show's over, guys, if you haven't seen it, log on to Mostly Arsenal, give it a watch, and obviously make sure and subscribe if you haven't subscribed to Keith's channel. Because I have a feeling there'll be lots more of those videos coming, and I, for one, can't wait to see them. Right, where do we start? Do you know what? Last Sunday, we might as well start with the Super Bowl, because it's weirdly somehow this year the Super Bowl is linked to Arsenal, and Stan Kroenke's Rams have won. It's the second Super Bowl in franchise history, but the first since they moved to LA, and obviously the first since Stan has owned the Rams at the SoFi Stadium. They beat the Cincinnati Bengals. I think it was a late drive in the fourth quarter. With about a minute to go, they got the vital touchdown, and they took the Super Bowl. Now, I seen then obviously a lot of people the next day, and commented on, well, not even the next day, but the whole weekend, there seemed to be a flurry of people suddenly taking an interest in American football and what this would mean for Arsenal. Obviously with Stan Kroenke owning the Rams, and would there be a knock-on effect if we won, or if the Rams won, or would there be a knock-on effect if the Rams lost? Would it affect us in any way at all? I seen a lot of people saying they didn't want the Rams to win purely because Kroenke owned them. And they're very much Kroenke out in terms of Arsenal, which I thought was a bit, I questioned someone as to why they wanted the Rams to lose, and that was their answer. And they admitted they knew nothing about American football, but wanted the Rams to lose just purely on the basis of Kroenke.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a strange one. What's your thoughts around the whole Rams win? Do you think it's going to affect anything at Arsenal? Do you think? I know you're not really a massive American football fan. You're certainly not into it in the way that I would be. And I was glad to see the Rams win, just purely from a fact that I'm a Kansas City Chiefs boy, and the Bengals beat the Chiefs in the divisional playoff 2 weeks before to get to the Super Bowl. So I was glad to see the Rams get one over on them. But do you think it's going to have any impact at all come the summer?
You know what? Standard man, look at him. You know what? It's like, as you said, I'm massive. I'm not into American football. I never have been. I don't think I ever will be. But you would have to have been on another planet, or probably just didn't own a mobile phone device or have any social media, for you to not know what was going on. Because it was plastered everywhere. It was on every single social media platform, and Twitter. It was absolute big news. And I don't know if it's normally like that, or whether it's kind of been heightened because obviously Stan owns Arsenal, etc., etc. But for me, it's like I kind of don't care really. It is the most honest truth. I didn't want them to lose. I didn't care if they won. It doesn't really impact me at all, because I have no real interest in the sport. And to be honest, his ownership of other franchises or other organizations don't really bother me either. what he does and how successful we are or how successful we're not as an Arsenal fan for Arsenal Football Club is what concerns me. So really and truly, I don't really have an opinion on it either way. The only thing I will say is that, one, I don't think it's going to have any impact in terms of how he runs Arsenal Football Club. And when I say that, I don't think it's going to have a positive impact. I don't think it's going to have a negative impact. I think him and his team and, his organization and the way they run the club, is kind of set in stone, really. They will have a plan in terms of like what they do with regards to recruitment, with regards, PR, with regards marketing, etc. And the win for his American football team, I don't think is going to have any impact on that. So I don't think it's going to impact Arsenal Football Club at all in any way, shape, or form. But what I will say is that I do think it's a positive thing to see the fact that he does actually, because there was a time, I can't remember the details, but there was a time when all his teams, all his franchises in terms of what he owned was doing really, really badly. And I know that we all spoke about, oh God, look at Arsenal, look at this, look at that. They're all doing badly. They're all just kind of, wallowing in the different leagues and sports that they're in. So while we, as Arsenal fans, we made a point to kind of pick that out and say, look, he's clearly an owner and he doesn't care about success. So for me, it's nice that, I have no affiliation with the team. I don't know nothing about the man. I don't particularly like him. But at the same time, it's quite good to see that, one of the franchises are actually winning, the major competition or the major cup in their respective sport. I think that can only be a good thing. I think that shows that actually, he has a franchise that he's invested in. They've obviously set out with a plan. And in terms of the management, in terms of the recruitment, something's working because they've just gone and won the Super Bowl for only the second time in their history. So while I don't really care about American football and while I don't think it will have a massive impact on Arsenal, because I think his plan is already kind of set out as an owner, I do think I'd rather see Stan Kroenke's franchises doing well than seeing them do badly, personally.
Okay. I'll give you my opinion in a wee sec. I just want to come to some of these comments because obviously we always try to read out as many as we possibly can. Keith saying, thank you, mate, massively appreciated. No problem, Keith. Stu, even all, hope everyone's safe and well. Great to see you back, Steve-O. Hope you're well and doing good. Thank you. Really, Stan will never have the same ambition for Arsenal as he has for the Rams or Avalanches. Albert, evening, Albert. Good evening, panel. Stu saying, yo, Albert. Really, Arsenal is in Josh's hands. It's his project. Only good thing is that Josh is at least trying to understand our football culture and connect more with the people. Albert, good evening also to the people in the chat. And Chris, I wouldn't see it affecting us at all. The Rams have their own budget. I still think Stan owns Arsenal, but it's run day to day by Josh, and he's the one behind what happens with us. I think many see it as have and have not situation from Keith. Okay, so my opinion on it. Firstly, I don't think the result on Sunday night made any difference to what's going to happen in the summer.
Yeah,
that would be the first thing I say. I think the plans are laid out, and we can see that there is a clear plan. And I know there's the whole trust the process thing, and there has been major changes at the club since Arteta come in, and obviously it doesn't totally coincide with the Kroenkes taking sole ownership. Obviously, that happened slightly before, but you can see there is a plan, and they're trying to change the culture, trying to change everything about the club, which, to be honest, was long overdue. Whether it's Josh or Stan running the club, I don't know. But I honestly don't believe for 1 second the result on Sunday night changes anything. I think we would still see the same level of investment in the summer, whether the Rams won or whether the Rams lost. In terms of the Kroenkes, I mean, people have given the Kroenkes a very hard time because of the fact that, for so many years, they didn't invest in the club. And I've said it before, you don't invest heavily in a business to make it more expensive when you're trying to buy it.
Mhm.
So I understand why they weren't investing. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm happy about it. It just means that I understand what they were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have loved to have seen more investment. I would have loved to see more ambition from the club. But you could argue then that actually, is that on the board members who wouldn't sell out? You know, we all knew it was eventually going to happen. That's what they were there for, was to take sole ownership. So why so many board members who supposedly love the club held on and held on and held on? They wanted their share prices to go up.
Yeah.
Let's not kid ourselves.
Business.
They wanted their share prices to be worth more so that when they did eventually sell, they would get the most money they possibly could. You can even go right back and blame the Arsenal Supporters Trust, because they were the ones recommended sell to the Cronkies rather than Usmanov.
Mhm.
You know? So the Cronkies have had a very, very hard press because of that. And I understand their philosophy. And I think if you look at the Rams, have just won the Super Bowl. Their American or their NHL team are flying in the NHL. They're top of their division by about 12 points or something. And they're one of the favourites to win the Stanley Cup this year. So, I mean, the Cronkies could end up with the Stanley Cup and the Vince Lombardi Trophy from the NFL. So there are two things. Their Colorado Rapids, I believe, are top of the league or thereabouts, doing really well. So the Cronkies know how to run a successful franchise. The problem is that Arsenal is not a franchise.
Mm.
And that's the difference. In America, the American people know that it's a franchise business, whereas in the UK, our football clubs are not franchises. And that's the difference. So it is good to see that Josh Kroenke is taking a more active interest and he's trying to get more involved with the fans and understand the culture and the the feelings that we as fans have about the club. But I genuinely, as I say, I don't think the result on Sunday night makes any difference to what will happen. Let's read a couple more of these comments. Okay, did that one. Halftime show was epic, though. Did you see the halftime?
No, I saw clips of it. Like I saw some of the artists and stuff like that. I think it was like Eminem, 50 Cent, a lot of the artists that were there. There's been a lot of memes about 50 Cent ever since his performance, because he did something similar when he first broke out in terms of his career. But yeah, I saw clips of the halftime performance, and yeah, it did seem like one hell of a show.
Yeah, it was good. Mixed reviews. Was a lot of people saying it wasn't great. I thought it was brilliant, but then it sort of takes me back. I remember listening to all those songs. And that was sort of my time. I remember seeing Eminem perform live at the basically 5 minutes away from where I live.
Nice.
At an outdoor event here. And he was fantastic. He really was. He got confused as to where he was. He kept saying, Belfast, and he wasn't in Belfast, but we'll let him away with it. It was his first time ever in Northern Ireland. Chris, the last 2 years have shown there's a plan. Both January windows have focused on trimming the wage bill, ready for investment in the summer within the squad. I can't really argue with that. And I think, for me, if we go back to this January, the comments by Vinay, where he said, that the plan in January was very much to see if there was any of the summer deals that they could move forward, but they weren't going to buy players for the sake of buying players, which I think in the past we've seen sort of panic buying on the last days of the window and stuff. And I'm glad that we're not compromising on our targets.
Definitely.
Yes, it's probably left the squad a little thin. But at the same time, it's probably better than having bodies there that aren't going to do any good.
Yeah, quality over
wages
all day.
Look at some of the duff deals we've done in January. Dennis Suarez,
Ben Ayew.
Yeah.
Terrible signings over the years.
Yeah. Really, it's not about their lack or investment or lack of it. It's about them hiring incompetent people year after year and having no accountability. Yeah. I think there has been a lot of poor appointments within the club. But again, you know, I know a lot of people have issues with Arteta. And I know at times on the show we've questioned whether Arteta is the right person to lead this club forward. For me, I like the fact that we're changing so much about the club. I think, as I say, it's been long overdue, and it's good to see. So I'm not in the cronky out sort of side of things anymore. I'm willing to see where we go under them. Now that they have the sole ownership, to me, I think things are changing.
The whole movement's gone quiet, to be honest.
Yeah,
like, let's face it, and that was always going to be the case. When we were lounging in like 8th position, obviously the spotlight is going to be on the owners, on the manager, on the squad, probably in that order. And now we're in the hunt for fourth spot. Yeah, it's all gone quiet, and it went quiet really, really quickly, which is why previously I even said to people that I got no issue with Stan Kroenke personally. I don't actually care who owns the club. I just want the club to do well. So yeah, I think if we miss out on the 4th spot, I think there will be somewhat of a resurgence to the Kroenke out movement. And then it will probably go quiet again when we go and spend, probably 250 million in the summer. So, fans are, and I include myself in that, we are fickle. I've been on here and I've heavily criticized Arteta. And then a couple of weeks later, I've said, what, he's not doing too bad. He's doing an all right job. Because it's a results business at the end of the day. And if we get positive results, we're willing to be patient. I'm still not completely convinced he's the right guy. But at the end of the day, we're in a position that I never thought we'd be in at this point in the season. So I'm willing to be patient and I'm willing to see how it's going to end between now and the end of the season. If for whatever reason we go on a terrible run and we finish out the top 6, I'm going to be calling for his head. If we finish in the top 4, and he signs a new contract, I'm not going to lose no sleep over it. So, as fans, that's just the nature of Premier League football and being a fan of a Premier League side, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Another one there from
Thomas. God, Calstrom with a broken back.
Yeah. Thomas, I think possibly a new name to the channel there. If you are, welcome. Yeah, so. Thanks for joining us. Make sure and hit the subscribe button. Good to have you. Chris, this summer will be a big window as we will need to spend big in the striking department. We will be looking for the type of players that will cost 50 to 60 million minimum. And I think spending 160 million in the summer shut up a lot of those. He never spends money, only takes money out, which was the vast majority. Really ask yourselves this: do you ever see us competing for the league under KSE ownership? Yeah, I do. I don't see why not. The thing that gets me, I'm not having a go at anybody, anybody in the chat or anything. The thing that gets me is we often talk about the values of the club. It was one of the big things, when we talked about the Super League, was people wanting to maintain the values of the club and values and tradition. But what are the values and tradition of this club? The values and tradition of this club are we have always been a self-sustaining club. Mm-hmm. We have never, Wenger said we don't buy superstars, we make them.
Yep.
But yet we're all clamoring for a sugar daddy who's going to come in and spend millions of their own money. Yeah. And that's always the criticism that's levied at the Kroenkes is that they're not spending their own money. Yes, they're now allowing us to spend the club's money, but they're not spending their own money. So what do we actually want as fans? Do we want the sugar daddy and forget about the values? Or do we want to maintain the values and the tradition that we have built this club upon? Yeah. It's a tough one.
It is a tough one.
Because we want success, and the only way to get success is to spend money.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the reality of it nowadays. Because
I honestly feel like 9 out of 10 fans would happily, trade in the values of the club for a Man City type owner to come in and just spend billions on players. I think a lot of fans would, and like as much as I would much rather us have success in a self-sustaining model. At the same time, it's been a long time since we've been, competing for the league, back in the Champions League, even competing for the Champions League. So it is a hard one, and it is kind of like a head over heart thing. It's like I'd prefer if we could be successful this way. I think the success will be even sweeter if we are. But I do understand fans, wanting for a sugar daddy, because it's not nice supporting a team that used to challenge for titles, and now, last 2 seasons we finished 8th place. So it is a hard one. It is.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, listen, I think we'll move on from that. As I say, for me, it's a difficult one. It's where do you draw the line between values and tradition and just wanting to spend money? Jamie, Liverpool game between Leicester and Villa. Rumours that the North London derby will be in May.
It's going to be a tough week.
It's the Liverpool game. It's 3 games in 6 days, I believe, that week. And you kind of ask yourself, when they're putting these fixtures together, because there's like a 2 or 3 week break after the Villa game.
I know.
It doesn't make sense. So many gaps. You have to ask, do the FA just not want us to finish in the top 4?
That week could make or break our season.
Absolutely. Chris, spending millions doesn't get you success. Look at the money United have wasted on players with little to no improvement. It needs to be spent in the right areas. It does, and it needs to be spent on the right players. Yeah. That's the thing. And I mean, we've seen that. We spent 72 million on Pepe, and it's not Pepe's fault we spent 72 million on him, but he's not worth and wasn't worth 72 million. And I think, if we'd have spent 30 million on it, nobody would have questioned it. The fact that we spent 72 million has always keep the extra pressure on him. Antonio, greetings, you lovely people. 3-0 to the Arsenal. And really typical from Sky. Yeah, I mean, I believe Sky do have a lot to say in terms of the scheduling.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
And it's all very well Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher bleating on about things, but they never come out and say anything when the schedules are changed at the last minute to suit Sky. So anyway, right. Listen, you said something earlier on about in terms of if Arsenal finish 4th, and Arteta gets a new contract and stuff like that, and that kind of leads us on to the next point. And I put out a poll this week based on comments from Thierry Henry, who came out and said that if Arsenal don't finish in the top 4, it has to be considered a failure, and essentially that Arteta has failed at his job. So there was over 450 votes in that poll, and the results were fair. It was a fair comment, 57%, and an unfair comment, 43%. Firstly, G, what's your sort of thoughts on what Thierry Henry had to say, and what's your thoughts on how people have voted in that poll?
Yeah, so first of all, Thierry Henry is an Arsenal legend. He's probably in the modern era. When I say modern, everybody knows, when I first started supporting Arsenal, it was because of the main Manny and Wright. But in terms of growing up in the kind of modern era of football, he's probably my favorite player. Favorite Arsenal player. Arsenal legend, Premier League legend, football legend. But aside of being a legend, for Arsenal, he's a human being. So for me, and he's somebody that clearly is passionate about football. He had a career in it. He's still trying to continue a career in coaching and managing. So for me, he's entitled to his opinion. And I think, for what he's done for the club, unless what he says is somewhat disrespectful, I'm not really going to have much of an issue with what he says. Because I don't feel like what he said was disrespectful or condescending or patronizing or anything like that. I just think he's got an opinion. As a player, he was very competitive. He was very ambitious. And quite clearly, he still has that in him. So him looking from the outside in, it's very easy also to look from the outside in and say, oh, this is what the team should be doing. This is what the team shouldn't be doing. But yeah, I think he's entitled to his opinion. I think, and I say he's entitled to his opinion based on the fact that he's the main man. He's Thierry Henry, an absolute, baller in his day. In terms of what he was saying being fair or unfair, it's a difficult one because, like, at the beginning of the season, I would have said my expectations were top 6. I think top 6 would be an improvement and progression on last season and the season before. But obviously, given the situation we're in, I think many fans, are looking at it, including myself, saying, you know what, this 4th spot is really up for grabs. And it is. And some might even go as far as to say it's ours to lose, given how many games we have in hand, given the fact that I know there's no easy games in the Premier League, but if you look at the teams we've got to play compared to the others in the run-in, we've got more of a favourable fixtures. And when I say that, I mean we've got a lot of the hard ones out of the way. So I don't think what he said was particularly unfair. I just think what that tells you is that the team is actually making progress. Because if the team wasn't making progress and the team weren't doing well, he wouldn't come out and even say what he said in terms of the squad, competing and actually achieving top 4. So, yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm kind of on the fence with this one. I say I'm on the fence, but I think I don't necessarily agree with him, but I do think what he said was fair. I think it's fair to look at the club in terms of the progression made, in terms of where we're sitting on the table, and for him to say, well, you know what? If we don't get top 4, it would be considered a failure. Because I think a lot of us, if we were to ask ourselves the question, if we don't make top 4, we're going to be gutted. We're going to feel like it's a failure. We're going to feel disappointed. We might just say, well, you know what, we'll take top 6. But we're all sitting here realistically hoping, wishing, and envisioning us finishing in the top 4 because we know it's within our grasp. We know we're good enough to get that 4th spot. So I completely understand where he's coming from, and it's been a bit strange, like seeing like the reaction to this, because it's been pretty much split. There's been a lot of fans very critical of Thierry Henry. I must say some of the younger fans as well probably didn't even get to see him play. Very, very critical. Some, I would say, even go so far as to say disrespectful towards him in terms of his opinion. And then there have been others that have said they agree exactly with what he said. And I can kind of see both sides in terms of this debate. Because I think he's just looking at the team and thinking, yeah, they should be striving for top 4, they should be ambitious, etc., etc. But I'm not surprised that the poll was as close as it was, and that the successful percentage was that what his quotes were actually fair. But yeah, it's an interesting one because I really, really didn't think that Thierry Henry talking about top 4 would get such a reaction from the Arsenal fan base. But clearly a lot of people agreed, and clearly it ruffled a lot of feathers with some Arsenal fans.
Okay, yeah, I mean, for me, you're absolutely right, and he's absolutely entitled to his opinion. As is anybody, and we often say that, and it's one thing we're very keen on in this show, to make sure that everybody has a right to their say. And as long as you can back it up with a valid sort of reason, then everybody should have the right to be heard. My concern, and the way I sort of worded the poll when I put it out, was, is it putting undue pressure on such a young squad? If you look at it, we have the youngest squad in the Premier League.
Yep.
And is turning around and telling them that they're a failure as a squad, because that's essentially what he's saying. You can look at it as he's saying Arteta has failed, but it's not just Arteta. It's very much a squad thing. You can't just say it's Arteta. Would be the whole squad has failed. So to me, it's a lot of pressure on young kids to say you're failures because you didn't get top 4.
Yeah.
In terms of the top 4 thing, I mean, yeah, we are in a good position. We're 4 points behind United with 3 games in hand. The problem is that the 3 games in hand we have are away to Chelsea, away to Spurs, and home to Liverpool.
Yep.
So they're not exactly easy games. The only thing that works in our favour is, as you've rightly said, we've had a lot of the big games away from home done and out of the way.
Yeah.
The likes of United, City, stuff like that. We've actually only lost 1 game at home in the league this season. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, and that was obviously the City.
Yeah, I know our home
year.
form is good.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that those teams, we have a lot of games at home. We have a lot of winnable games, and certainly the next sort of run of 6 fixtures. Obviously, you can throw Liverpool into that now, which would be slightly harder. But certainly 5 of the next 6 fixtures, I would consider are very winnable, which could potentially put us in a position to have moved into the top 4, strengthen that position, and we've got to hope then that others around us keep dropping points.
Yeah.
But I don't
Which
think
will
it's
happen.
certainly. I don't think it's clear cut and as easy as people are making it out to be to get
No.
top 4. It's not just a case of we have to win our games and we have to rely on other teams dropping points. And thankfully, if you look, that's where, as I say, the run of games we have, 5 of the 6 games are very winnable.
Yeah.
But within the next 6 games of other clubs, you've got like United and Spurs have got to play each other, and Spurs have lost 3 in a row in their next games against City.
Yeah.
So it's not looking any better for them, So things like that, we've got to hope that results go our way, to make it a little bit more comfortable. But yeah, I mean, Thierry Henry, he's every right to have his opinion, as does anybody. So as I say, my only concern was just the undue pressure it puts on kids, saying they feel if they don't get in the top 4. I think it's very interesting, though, as you rightly said, at the start of the season, for the majority of fans, we said if we get top 6, it's it's where we need to be. It's not that we're happy with getting top 6. For every Arsenal fan wants to be in the top 4. We want Champions League football, and we're used to that. But I think for the majority of fans, they would appreciate the fact that top 6 is progression.
Yeah.
Considering that other clubs have strengthened as well, and considering where we're coming from, in the fact that we do seem to have been quite far behind. So the fact that we're in contention for top 4, and we're saying now all of a sudden that if we don't get top 4, it's a failure. I think it shows how much the goalposts have moved.
Yeah.
Even within the season.
Definitely.
And if we finish in the top 4, there will still be people that say Arteta needs to go because we didn't finish top 2.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have an element of people not being happy. It doesn't matter where we finish, people will not be happy. And we could win the league by winning 38 games 1-0. There will still be people that are saying they're not happy because it's not attractive football to watch and stuff. And
that's what I said, though, this is where it's about. This is what fans, isn't it?
Yeah. I couldn't care less if we won 38 games 1-0. I'd be quite happy with that.
I would take that right now, trust me.
Yeah. People need to remember the George Graham days where we scored a goal and we parked the bus. We all laugh at Mourinho and sort of say these things, but the football wasn't much better under George Graham. It's just we knew how to get the result. Yeah. We knew how to grind out the win. So anyway, right, let's read some of these comments, see what you guys have to say. Where we've got to Chris, obviously just touched on the Pepe comment that I made. I'm not sure he's not worth 72 million. We just didn't know a heel-end boy would come along and play Pepe out of the team. Scott, this is Henry's personality. He was an awful captain because he was overly critical and had high expectations of everyone. Everyone else around us faltering. No top 4 is definitely a failure. Chris, I feel it's fair considering where we are on the table, but I think the club and some fans would be happy with 6th and a Europa League spot, but 4th is there for the taking right now. And thank you, Chris, by the way, just while we're at it, he made that graphic for the poll results, so thanks, Chris. Really, of course, it's a fair comment. We always have high standards at this club, but does it have anything to do with his association with Daniel Ek? Interesting one. Obviously, Spotify are now sponsoring. They've bought the naming rights to the new camp, or the Camp Nou. So it's a massive 300 million sponsorship deal for Barcelona. He is obviously still very firmly in there with Daniel Ek. And I mean, my belief is that he's positioning himself and he wants the Arsenal job.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any real hiding that. He almost wants that. I think at times he probably wants the added pressure. And as an Arsenal fan, he wants Arsenal to do well. But at the same time, if the manager's not doing well and there's a vacancy, I think he'd be firmly trying to throw his hat in the ring.
Yeah, he would.
And I've said it before, as much as I love Henry as a player, I don't want him anywhere near the club as a manager. Not when you look at how we treat people that aren't even club legends.
Yeah.
I do not want to see that happen to him, because he hasn't exactly set the world on fire in terms of
waiting to happen. That
he hasn't done much in terms of his own coaching, and until he sort of proves himself, I wouldn't want to put him in the firing line at Arsenal. Scott may really, but he was always outspoken and critical even as a player. I think it's just his personality. Really agrees with Scott. However, the big question is, will we see anything different if we get top 4 or just make up the numbers in the Champions League round of 16? Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that before as well. You know, if we get Champions League, are we ready for it? Martin, if we don't get top 4 this season, it's going to be even harder next season. Teams like United will have a new manager, plus we will potentially have the added midweek Europa League games next season. Yeah, I mean, that's a very valid point as well. You know, we're kind of have that little bit of advantage of the little bit of extra rest at the minute. Chris, I think currently we are a year ahead of where Arteta and Eddie had planned. We've done better than most had expected. I think with another summer of investment will take us to that top 4 level. Scott, I have no issues with the pressure on young kids. These aren't your average teenagers. They're Premier League footballers who represent their nation. Henry's comments won't bother them. Okay. I mean, it's a fair point. They're getting paid thousands of pounds a week. I suppose at the end of the day, they have to accept that comes with pressure. Really, Stephen, we also lost to Chelsea at home in August. Sorry, then yes, that's 2 games at home. My apologies. Lee, evening Lee. Hi guys. Thierry Henry is sort of repeating what Wenger said about the 4th place finish, like being like a trophy. I think it's a big ask, but we need to aim to be. Yeah, really, we must beat Man United at home and not lose against Spurs away. Maybe Henry's comments were based around the fact that we do have a great opportunity to break the top 4 currently. I don't agree with him and think he has an agenda. Okay, Keith. Really, I get how the KSE want to implement the NFL winning model at Arsenal, but I just feel it's too big a task for a rookie manager like Arteta. My only sort of defense there, and I'm not one to overly jump to defensive of Arteta, but if you look at the Rams coach, he's only 35, and this is his first coaching job, and this is his 2nd Super Bowl appearance, I believe, in a few years, or maybe they got to the divisionals a couple of years back. But I mean, he's 35 years old and has just won the Super Bowl as a coach, because the Cronkies backed him and got him the players that he wanted, and invested in the side. So, you know, a rookie manager with the right investment can still do a job if they're good enough. Chris, Champions League is okay until we lose 10-0 in aggregate against Bayern again in the 2nd round. Geo Gunner, evening. Just shush, the king has spoken. Just an opinion. No worries. Right. Yeah, so it's an interesting one. It's certainly divided opinion this week. And do you know what? We'll see at the end of the season where we're at. So I think it's time to sort of get on to tomorrow's game, and talk about this match against Brentford. Before we do actually talk about, you know, the game itself and sort of expectations and lineups and stuff like that, I want to just sort of touch briefly on a player Brentford signed in January, and your sort of thoughts around this. And obviously it's Christian Eriksen, the ex-Spurs player, has signed, and he played the other day in a reserve game. I don't necessarily think he'll start tomorrow.
Yeah, I've heard he's not going to start.
I hope he's in the squad, and I hope he gets on. And from my point of view, if he does get on, I hope that rivalry can be put aside, from the point of view of being an ex-Spurs player. and that he gets a massive ovation, because it's hard to believe it was only, what, 7, 8 months ago
Yeah, yeah.
that this guy
You know,
died.
Euros, isn't it? Mm.
He died on the pitch, literally had to be revived, and now he's back playing professional football. What's your thoughts on the whole situation with him?
You know what? It's crazy because it's like, you know, we all love football, we all love Arsenal, but you know, there are things in life that, you know, transcend football. You know, transcend supporting, you know, the club that you love, and that's life and death. You know, real life situations. You know, unfortunate situations when, you know, people and when people you lose loved ones, etc. And it was during the Euros, and it was a shocking, you know, it was shocking. It was uncomfortable. It was really kind of, you know, horrific to kind of see, you know, what was kind of transpiring on the pitch. And we can only thank God, obviously, that, you know, he you know, made made a recovery, you know. And when I say that, you know, he was brought back to life. I think at that time, I think, you know, him continuing his career was probably, you know, the last thought on the minds of, you know, his friends and family, and those that kind of care about him, etc. And I think for all of us, I think, you know, regardless of the fact that he was a Spurs player or ex-Spurs player, we just all wanted him to make a full recovery. And when I say that, I mean just healthy enough to, you know, obviously, you know, see his kids grow up, and just live out his days, and live a somewhat, you know, longer life, and hopefully, well, not hopefully, but one day die of kind of old age, etc. So yeah, it's like there's certain things transcend football and life. You know, when something like this happens, it just reminds you just how precious life is. So for me, it's like, it's one of those things where I'm just pleased that he's managed to make a comeback. I think first and foremost, it's great that he's made a recovery and he's healthy enough, like I say, to spend time with his family, to see his family again. But the fact that he's actually got himself fit, got himself in condition to actually play football again, I think that's an incredible story, and it's an incredible thing. And it's really good that, you know, Brentford have given him this opportunity to obviously come back to the Premier League, and I'm just really happy for the guy. I hope he has a somewhat successful career, you know, with Brentford. We really don't know how good he's going to be. I didn't watch much of him. You know, once he'd left Tottenham, I didn't see much of him in Serie A. And I didn't particularly watch much of him at international level at the Euros before this happened. So I don't really know what kind of level he's at, or what kind of quality he still possesses. But obviously Brentford, you know, have signed him up. I wish him all the best. I hope he has a really good career with Brentford, as long as it just doesn't start tomorrow. That's all. Other than that, I wish him all the best, and I'm just really glad that he's made a full recovery.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. You know, I hope he does well. I think it's only a short 6-month contract to see obviously how he gets on. I hope I'd like to see him get on the pitch tomorrow. I don't want him to do well.
It'd be nice.
It's a strange one for me because Christian Eriksen's a player I've always had a soft spot for. He's a player that I really wanted him. When he signed for Spurs from Ajax, I really wanted us to go for him. I thought, you know, he could have done such a good job for us. You know, he was the sort of player that would have fitted our system so well.
Yeah.
And I was
definitely an Arsenal type player.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. I mean, at the time, if you'd have been, you know, what is the definition of an Arsenal player? You know, Christian Eriksen was it. And when he went to Spurs, I was gutted. I really was. But yeah, I mean, I remember during the Euros when that happened, I remember we were talking about it and when it was all happening, and in complete disbelief. It's amazing. Credit to the EMTs and stuff at the ground and everybody who was involved in getting them back to health. It's a fantastic thing, and it's, you know, I'm sure there'll be a documentary on it at some point, and you know, we'll find out more of what happened, and you know, but it's incredible. It's amazing when you think of the amount of players as well that over the last few years you've seen collapsing on the pitch and this and that, and their careers have been over. You know, you look back at Fabrice Muamba, the ex-Arsenal player, collapsing, and that was it. His career was over. And yet somehow Erickson has managed to get himself back to a position where he is potentially going to come back tomorrow, if not tomorrow, next week, as a professional footballer again.
At the highest level as well.
Yeah. It's amazing to see. I wish him every success with whatever career he has left. But as you say, let's just hope that he doesn't do well if he does come on tomorrow. But yeah, let's hope he gets a nice ovation. Chris, this whole rookie manager thing, you don't hear Villa or Rangers fans saying that about Gerrard, but it seems to be the thing when Arsenal fans have an issue with Arteta. I think the issue, you know, the reason you don't hear it for Villa fans is that Villa aren't as, well, certainly for us, they're not as big a club. You know, we would consider ourselves a bigger club, and certainly a more successful club in terms of volume of trophies. Obviously, Villa have the European Cups, which we don't have. But in terms of volume of trophies, we're a more successful club. We're more we're used to being up there.
The rookie thing for me, definitely. You know, when he was appointed, I definitely raised an eyebrow. We all did, because we were all just like, really, like, this guy hasn't had a managerial job yet, and yet he's got one of the biggest jobs in English football. But I think it's got to the point now where he's here. So do you know what I mean? We just got to back him, and just what my hope is that, like I say, I've never been completely convinced that he's the guy, but I want to be proven wrong. At the moment, in terms of where we are, I think he is. I think he's overachieving somewhat to what people expected. So yeah, I'm happy to just kind of be a bit more patient and just kind of give him until the end of the season and see what happens. But for me, you know, even if for whatever reason we do miss out on the top four, I'm not going to be calling for him to be sacked, because, like I said to you, you know, right at the beginning of the season, for me, progress would be finishing 5th or 6th. And if that's what we can achieve, then I'm happy to kind of give it, you know, the summer and next season to then push on further. But yeah, the rookie manager thing, I see both sides of the argument. I think it was a surprise appointment. I think it was a very risky appointment. I don't think many people would expect a club of Arsenal stature to sign a rookie manager. But the fact that he's here now, we kind of just got to get behind him, and hopefully he can, you know, prove us all wrong.
Okay. I'm going to have an opinion on it in a wee second. Just want to read out one of these other comments. Chris is someone who watches Brentford. I hope he smashes it there after Saturday, of course. They certainly need that creative player in the middle of the park for them. Keith, I hope Christian Eriksen gets the best standing ovations if he comes on tomorrow. He's a dad and a husband above being a footballer, and I wish him well regardless of past rivalries.
100%.
Really saying to Chris, I'm not part of the manager in or out dogfight. I'm backing Arteta, but when push comes to shove in title race, I would rather have an experienced coach. I get 100% what you're saying, really. I do. And again, I kind of feel like I'm jumping the Arteta's defense tonight, and it's not really my intention, because it's not what I do. But what I would say is, we had an experienced manager in Wenger. We had an experienced manager in Emery.
Yep.
We've got an inexperienced manager in Arteta now. But we ain't pushed their challenge for the league title in over 16 years.
Yep.
So I'm not sure, you know, what difference having an experienced manager over an inexperienced manager now.
Look at Conte at Spurs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like this is the thing. It's like, don't get me wrong. Like, I understand where people are coming from with regards to the experienced manager, but ultimately, you know, if the manager's not backed and the recruitment's not right and the club's not run right, it don't matter who you got, you know, at the wheel. The club's not going to do well, and you know, Tottenham fans are learning that now. That, you know, having Conte is not guaranteeing them results. Can't.
So for me, I was never a Wenger out person. You know, I backed Wenger right up until the very end. But at the same time, Wenger stayed too long, and Wenger got lazy. And we talk about, people are saying about how, if you back Arteta, you're accepting mediocrity. Well, actually, we kept Wenger and we accepted mediocrity under Wenger because we accepted that fourth place was a trophy.
Yep.
And I know that, and I guarantee people are going to comment saying that they didn't, and that's fine. When I say we, I just mean the majority of the fan base kind of went, yes, it's okay. What we want is to be top four and in the Champions League.
Yeah.
The reality is what we want is to win the league.
Yeah.
And we haven't done that, and we haven't challenged for a long, long time, but we accepted it. We let that culture filter into the club. We let a culture of players, Wenger let Ozil walk over him. Wenger let Ozil get away with stuff. And as soon as Emery came in and he started making a bit of a stand against it, people started questioning Emery because, he wasn't playing Ozil. And then Arteta played Ozil for a bit and then stopped playing him because he wasn't doing what he needed to do. And because results weren't going our way, it was, he's not playing Ozil because of Ozil's political views. Nonsense. So the club needed to change its culture. We needed to change everything about this club. Emery didn't have whether he didn't have the balls to stand up to the Cronkies to do it, whether he didn't have a way about him personally to actually implement those changes, he didn't have the strength of personality. I don't know. Arteta seems to have that strength of personality. He's not going to be walked over and that it has to be his way. Yeah. And you have to toe the line and do it his way. And, people call him a dictator, and I guess maybe in some ways he is. But I think he genuinely wants what's best for the club.
But let's look at what we would class as so-called successful managers. The vast majority of so-called successful managers, you could somewhat call them dictators. Sir Alex Ferguson, probably the most successful, regarded as probably the best Premier League manager of all time. He was no pushover. He did listen. Beckham got too big for his boots. He sold him. Do you know what I mean? He was a global superstar at the time, and there was Jaap Stam as well. There were issues with Jaap Stam. He was probably the best centre back in the Premier League at the time. Sir Alex Ferguson didn't take no nonsense from no one. And if you look at successful managers, you look at even the modern era now. There was a period where Jose Mourinho was called the special one. And let's face it, people might say because of the money, etc., but he won trophies in countries where he didn't necessarily always have money as well, in Porto, Champions League, etc. But Jose Mourinho, you don't get any closer to a dictator than Jose Mourinho. And at one point in time, he was very, very successful. Antonio Conte, again, he's a no-nonsense manager. So managers come in all different shapes and sizes in terms of their their personality and the way they manage, the way people manage. They have their, they have their pros and their cons. But, if we were to look at successful managers within the Premier League's history, both in the past and present, you would definitely put them in the mode of a kind of dictator rather than a kind of laid back, easygoing manager. I don't think at this level you can be successful and kind of let things slip and let things slide, because the job will just kind of slip through your hands if you let that happen.
Yeah. I think the point I'm trying to get at, it's kind of why I'm prepared to give Arteta the benefit of the doubt and give him that little bit of time, is because I can see, myself that the culture needed to change, and I can see that it is changing, and I can see, that he's having to basically weed out the dead wood from top to bottom. And yes, I want to see progression in terms of results on the pitch. But I think, that there definitely is progression. It'll be interesting to see what happens now in the next 16 games of the, what's left of the season and where we finish, because we do have a good chance, as we've said, of top four. But as you say, if we don't finish top four, I'm not going to necessarily be Arteta out unless it's obvious that, he's lost the dressing room. Yeah. Something like that. But I mean, there's no indication whatsoever that he's lost the dressing room.
Quite the reverse.
Yeah, the only players that have anything negative to say about him are the players that he's got rid of.
Yeah,
because they don't fit the culture. Aubameyang wasn't willing to change his attitude to fit the new culture at the club. He was turning up late, and we don't know the full ins and outs of what actually happened, but we know some of it.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it looks like Aubameyang wasn't willing to change how he acted and to be a role model for younger members of the squad. And Arteta simply went, well, if you can't toe the line and be a good role model, then there's no place for you at this club.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with that. I genuinely am okay with that. I'm not happy with how we went about letting him go and getting no money for him, but at the same time, I can understand why they wanted him out of the club.
Yeah.
So, for me, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, as I say, because I can see what they're trying to do. But yeah, don't know how we got onto that from talking about Christian Eriksen.
It's just how it is, man. It's the chat. It's the chat. It's the comments.
That's it. Really, let's face it, the club messed up big time in their succession planning after Wenger decided to go. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Ivan Gazidis was the man involved in bringing in Emery to the club, and I think Gazidis didn't really care that much. I think he knew he was on his way to Milan, and didn't really care. Chris, Mourinho and Van Gaal at United, Mourinho and Conte at Spurs, Capello at England. If the team isn't run right, you can have the best manager ever, and it won't work.
Yep.
Wenger should have never have got that final two-year deal after the cup win. The club then seemed to not have the ambition or want for change. Right now, we have a manager who doesn't crap, as all will find out. Yeah, it doesn't take crap. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I said many years ago we should have got Pep. They should have made Wenger step aside and get Pep when he left. I can't remember it was when he left Barca or he left Munich. When he left Munich, basically. Certainly when he left Barca, they should have gone for him. But when he left Munich and was going to City, we should have been forcing Wenger to step aside and get Pep. Because Pep actually said he wanted to manage Arsenal. He's talked about his admiration for Arsenal before. Really, how can you call someone a dictator for just doing their job? That's how you deal with unprofessional people in any job. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am a manager, so I get 100% what you're saying. I'm just saying that this is the sort of terminology that you see people saying about him. It's not necessarily what we're saying about him. But it's not necessarily a bad thing being a dictator within certain rules. And it doesn't have to be used as a negative connotation. It's a dictator. You can dictate. We talk about having dictators on the pitch. Someone who's dictating the pace of the play, and it's not used as a negative comment. It's a positive thing. So I'm not necessarily saying that if we're calling Arteta a dictator, that it's necessarily a negative thing. Gio, we see now how special that top four is. Wenger ball, best football ever played in the Prem. Yeah, I mean, it was at its height, the best football. But as I say, I just feel that after a while it became lazy and complacent. And where Wenger came in and changed the culture, he didn't change and adapt when everybody else caught up. Everybody else caught up and then started to change further. He just was set in his ways and didn't seem to develop or change anything more after that. And I think that was where the downfall came with him. Stu, folks, apologies having to go early as the storm has played havoc with my travel tomorrow to watch the game. So off on an early night before my travels. Come on, you Gunners, be safe, one and all, and take care. Safe travels, Stu. Obviously, it's bad conditions out there, and hopefully it'll die down a bit by the morning. But stay safe. Gio saying good night, Stu. Only calling the finger was zipping up his coat.
Oh, mate.
Really, I think Capello actually tried his best to change the entire English dressing room culture, but he was fighting a losing battle with the Rooney's and John Terry's. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. Some managers want to change the culture, but don't have a strong enough grip on things or don't have a strong enough personality. And that's what I'm saying about Emery. I'm not sure if Emery didn't want to change things or he just couldn't change things.
Yeah.
You know, that was the thing. Chris, we had a chance to get Pep or Klopp. Both said they admired the Arsenal way of working and were available with the club. Just give Wenger a new deal rather than take that change. Yeah. And really, cheers, Stu, got us to 3 points. Okay, so Brentford, Arsenal, Brentford. Obviously, they beat us in the first game of the season. Now, I want to, before we sort of touch on our predicted lineup and stuff for tomorrow and score predictions and things, Brentford, what have you made of Brentford this season? I mean, obviously, they beat us in the first game. And, you know, we can talk about the fact that we were missing players with COVID and the whole COVID thing, but I don't want to make excuses for it. At the end of the day, we still should have beat them. And I still feel that, you know, the squad we had was capable of beating them, but we were beaten. But in terms of Brentford, I mean, we all kind of, I think if I'm right at the start of the season, most of us tipped them to be going straight back down.
Yeah.
And to give you some sort of context, just before you sort of give me your opinion on them this season, I was doing a wee bit of research last night. If you look at their last 12 games, so basically from the start of December, they've got 8 points in 12 games. They've had 2 wins, 2 draws, and 8 losses. They've scored 9 goals and conceded 24. They are 14th, and they're 7 points off the drop, with 24 points from 25 games. And most of the teams in and around them have games in hand on them. In fact, you know, Brentford, City, and I think Liverpool have played the most games on 25 so far this season. So, you know, all the teams around them have games on hand, which could drag them right back down to that sort of cut line. Have you been impressed with them so far in terms of, you know, the fact that they are 24 points and at the minute, you could argue, you know, 7 points clear of relegation is pretty comfortable, albeit the other teams have games in hand. But as I've always said, you know, I'd rather have points on the board than games in hand.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your sort of thoughts on Brentford this season?
Well, I think like the teams that come up from the Championship, I'm never massively confident that, you know, they will do well in the Prem, because I think there is a golfing quality between the Championship and the Premier League. But generally, there is always a bit of a surprise package from one of the teams. And, you know, Brentford have been, I think, in my opinion, that surprise package. What I like about them is they just do what they do well, if that makes sense. You know, they're a physical team. They can play ball. They play to their strengths. And yeah, they're tough. They're a tough team on their day to play against. You know, obviously when we played them, we were very, you know, weak in terms of squad. But I've seen them play in some games. I can't remember if it was Stamford Bridge or if it was at their home ground, but they gave Chelsea one hell of a game. Like, I think Chelsea won the game 1-0, and Mendy, their goalkeeper, was man of the match. Brentford should have literally battered them. So, you know, they can play ball. They're a big physical side. They can play ball. I think, obviously, right now, you know, 38 games, you know, their season is, you know, when you look at the last 12 games, their season you might say their season is somewhat unraveling. That was always going to happen. You know, they're a Championship side. They haven't massively strengthened since coming up from the Championship. They haven't spent a huge amount of money. So they were always going to struggle. But I think they've done a lot better than what people predicted. I predicted them as being in one of my bottom 3 teams to go down. And right now, 7 points clear of the relegation zone. Yeah, I think they've had a really, really good season. And I think they'll stay up, personally. I think they've got enough about them to stay up. But right now, it's a good time to play them. You know, in terms of, obviously, we never had a great, you know, we had I think we had a good December, but obviously a horrific January. But right now, when you look at the kind of fixtures in their recent form, it's not very good. So it's probably the best time to kind of play them. We're kind of on the up; they're kind of on the decline. And yeah, I've been personally quite impressed with them. I never gave them much hope when they were coming up from the Championship, and I think they've surprised a lot of teams. Because when we lost to Brentford with a much weakened side, we were basically, you know, the meme of the Premier League. We were the laughing stock of the Premier League. But a lot of teams have found since playing Brentford is not actually a foregone conclusion. They've taken a lot of points and put in some great performances against far superior sides than themselves in terms of quality. So I've been very impressed with them.
Yeah, I think they've put in some performances that have been very good. I don't necessarily think they've always got the results that their performances have deserved.
100%. Yeah.
The one thing I would say is, though, that kind of shows the difference in quality between the Championship and the Premier League, in that you have to take your chances, and we know better than anybody as Arsenal supporters about having to take your chances. And you look at Ivan Toney, and you know, there was a lot of talk during the summer of us potentially, you know, going for Ivan Toney as a player, and I remember starting to do the rumour mill shows last summer, and obviously the playoffs hadn't happened, and you know, we were doing the rumour mill shows before sort of it was decided that Brentford would be up, and Ivan Toney was one that we talked about, and you know, the likelihood is he would have been on the move if Brentford hadn't have come up. You know, a Premier League side more than likely would have come in for him, because he was setting the Championship alight. You know, he was scoring bags of goals.
Yeah,
but he's only scored 6 this season.
Yeah,
in the Premier League. You know, and it goes to show the difference, and just how tough it is to actually, you know, to win games in the Premier League. And it also makes me think then of the fact that, you know, we're saying that we need other teams in and around us to drop points, and that is, it's a lot more likely these days than it was in years gone by.
Yeah,
because I think the gap between the top 6 and the next 6 has certainly closed.
Yeah,
you know, teams are all taking points off of each other now. And the players coming in are an awful lot better. The money in the league is much higher than anywhere else. You know, for me, the Premier League is the most competitive league in the world.
Easy.
With the exception of maybe Man City, and to a point Liverpool when they're really on form. Any team can beat any team.
Literally, yeah.
You know, you've seen it. You've seen, obviously, all of a sudden Norwich are picking up points.
Yeah.
Newcastle are picking up points.
Yeah.
You know, when they've had terrible starts to the season. So any team can beat any team, and it's not as easy. And I mean, we've seen that with trying to predict results.
Yeah.
You know, and all we're trying to do is predict the result of an Arsenal match. You know, I've given up trying to do accumulators in the Premier League because you just cannot. You cannot get an accumulator anymore because there's always a couple of games that just go completely against the form book.
Yeah, just south.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Brentford, yeah, I mean, as I say, I think the results always haven't matched the performance. But it's been good to see that they're doing better than I think a lot of us expected.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd like to see them stay up, but I want to see them lose tomorrow.
Yeah.
And lose comfortably tomorrow. So, and here's the man who's probably best placed of us all to sort of talk about them. Chris, who does security there, or stewarding there. They're very hit and miss, but their strikers are useless. The United game showed where they battered them and should have been 2-0 up at half time, but they're finishing.
I saw the highlights of that match. Brentford were literally all over them and should have at least been 2-0 up before half time. But yeah, again, and like I say, I go back to the Chelsea game. I remember watching them play against Chelsea, and Mendy was man of the match. He literally kept them in the game. So yeah, they've had some really big performances and against some really big sides. And like you said, they've just been unfortunate. But as you also said, it just shows the gulf in quality between the Brentford side as individuals and as a team compared to obviously the likes of United and Chelsea, that they've got it in their locker to just grab a goal and come away with a win. But yeah, they've had some blinding performances. I don't think even Brentford fans, would be looking at this and thought they would be doing as well as they are. They've really, really surprised some of the top sides in the league.
Yeah. Joe, big up G and Stephen. Even Joe, how are you? Chris, 1 week they'll outplay United and the next they get battered by Wolves. Tony isn't the Premier League forward. I don't see him at Arsenal, and if he was, it would be as a reserve to a top name striker. Yeah. It's kind of hard to argue with that. As I say, you know, top strikers will score goals in any team. He's got 6. I think, you know, we talk about Nketiah. Yes, he's probably physically stronger and able to hold the ball up better than Nketiah, but in terms of is he a better finisher than Nketiah?
I think personally, you'd get more goals than 6 if you play for Arsenal. But having said that, for me, he's not the player that's going to get us to the level we want to get to. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's one of those ones.
Okay.
How much better is he better? You know, how much better is he better than Lacazette? Or is he even better than Lacazette? Do you know what I mean? If you're kind of questioning it, then he's not good enough.
Yeah.
If you kind of can't see clear distance between him and Laka, then why would you purchase him?
Yeah. I'm not defending Nketiah, by the way, because as you well know, I want Nketiah gone in the summer, you know. I liked him gone in the winter. I liked him gone last summer. So I'm not sort of defending Nketiah. I'm just saying that is he much better than Nketiah?
Yeah. I think I'll lose the plot if he signs a contract. I think I'll literally lose the plot. Really,
London derbies are never easy. Very true. And I think we actually have quite a few London derbies still to play. I think it's something like 5 of our next 8 games or something.
Yeah.
Are all in London.
Yeah. A lot of games.
Joe, Arsenal 1-0, but we'll be close. I think we struggle to score. Yeah. Well, we'll come on to the lineup in a wee sec and talk about that. Chris, David Ray coming back is a big bonus, but I think their biggest bonus is that 3 teams currently in the bottom 3 are worse than them, but I wouldn't be surprised if they went down. And for me, I would rather give Lacazette a new deal rather than sign Tony. Okay. So, in terms of Arsenal tomorrow, obviously, team news is that Tomiyasu's back. Elneny's back training after the AFCON. I think the only player that is potentially out is obviously Martinelli after
red card,
the double yellow. So he's obviously suspended. So I think really he's our only player out. I think other than that, Arteta has a full complement of 12 players left in the squad to pick from. You know, so because we don't have much of a squad anymore. But yeah, I think, you know, it's a full squad basically to pick from, apart from Martinelli. So I took the liberty of Joe. I'm not even putting that comment up on the screen. You can all read it, but I'm not putting it up.
Mate.
No. Jim, even Jim, how are you? Cool background, guys. Thank you. It's the Cannon Chatter Arms. Welcome. Grab a drink. Really, Cedric or Tomiyasu for tomorrow. Well, I'll put up the team. And just doing this a slightly different way now. So this is what I believe that Arteta will pick. It's not necessarily what I want to see, but it's what I believe Arteta will pick. And arguably, with the exception of Martinelli, obviously, I think much as I dislike a certain player, I think it probably is our strongest lineup.
Yeah.
So I've gone Ramsdale in goal. Tomiyasu's back. This was my sort of sticking point was, do we bring him back in straight away, or do we nurse him back in and let Cedric play? Because I actually think in the game against Wolves, Cedric was very good.
Yeah, he did well. He did.
I actually thought he had a really good game.
Yeah, a solid game.
The problem is, I wondered, did he raise his game because he was playing against the Portuguese national team? Or was it just that, you know, he can be hit and miss and have a good game one week and have a terrible game the next week? But for me, I'd probably want to see Tomiyasu back in there. White and Gabriel have established themselves as the first choice pairing. I know Rob Holding came on and had a good game when we sort of went to 3 at the back. But I don't think, you know, certainly long term, Arteta has no plans to go back to 3 at the back. He changed the style up because we needed to, with being a man down.
Yeah.
And it worked for us, but I don't see us going back to back 3. And on that, actually, I've seen a lot of people talking about next season, obviously Saliba coming back and saying, having Tomiyasu, Saliba, White, Gabriel and Tierney as a 5 at the back. I just don't see it happening, personally. Tierney, obviously, at left back. As we've said on this show many times, he is our best left back, albeit Tavares came in and did quite well at times. Tierney's still a level above him. Then put Partey and 34 in midfield, with Odegaard in number 10, Saka keeping his place on the right, and Smith Rowe coming in on the left to replace Martinelli and Lacazette up front. There is an argument you put Saka on the left and put Pepe on the right, especially after Pepe's good showing at the AFCON. But it's hard to keep Smith Rowe off the team, considering he's our top goal scorer.
Yeah.
And he has been kept out of the team by Martinelli. It kind of would seem unfair to then keep him out of the team for Pepe as well.
Yeah.
And you kind of wonder what that would say to him, that he can't get in the starting 11, considering he's our top goal scorer. So that's the team that I believe Arteta will go with. As I say, it's not necessarily the team I would want to see. I think, obviously everybody knows my opinions on 34. I think it's time we move on from him. I'd like to see Sambi in there, but much as I hate to admit it, 34 is probably slightly better with Partey than Sambi is right now. However, it's an argument of how the players get better without playing.
Yeah.
And how do they form a partnership without playing them together? But at the same time, we can't afford to let this opportunity go past us.
Yeah.
In terms of, we need to make sure that we do everything to pick up the points and win the games. Because as somebody rightly pointed out earlier on in the chat, we may not get a better chance of getting top 4
very true
than we will this season. So it's a difficult one for me to put him in there, but I kind of feel that that's what Arteta will go with. Thoughts?
Yeah, to be honest, I've been pretty happy with Arteta's team selections this season, particularly the latter part of the season. Most recently, I think there were times last season where there was too much chopping and changing. Like every week there was like a curveball. Every week there was a surprise, and it was probably because he was just trying to work out like who his best players were, or he didn't necessarily. He had obviously a much bigger squad, so I had to give them minutes, etc., etc. Whatever the reason was, it was very frustrating because you literally could not predict, or even know who our best players or the best 11 was. There's been a lot more consistency this season, which is great. So yeah, I've got no qualms with the lineup. Ramsdale in goal. It's not rocket science. I do think the thing that's frustrating with Cedric is that obviously he can be fantastic, and then he can be. That's my cat crying. Go on, go away. Go on. Oh, sorry guys. But yeah, don't want to get in trouble, you know what I mean? Or Kurt Zuma and that. But yeah, I think there's an argument, obviously, with regards, for me, Cedric is really inconsistent. So while he did well against Wolves, he does scare me because he can have one of those games where he's having a shocker. So I'd be tempted to pick Cedric for this game. And then have Tomiyasu feature. But at the same time, to be honest, whether he starts with Cedric, whether he starts with Tomiyasu, it's not really going to be a massive issue for me because I can see the logic in starting with either Cedric or Tomiyasu. If Tomiyasu's fit, he plays. If he's not quite up to speed, I can understand why he would play Cedric because that's the only reason why he would play Cedric. So I'm not gonna have too many qualms. Whoever plays at right back. Yeah, Gabriel and White, it is what it is. That's the partnership, moving forward. Tierney's our best left back. Again, no rocket science there. I have to agree with you. I'm not 34's biggest fan, but at the end of the day, I think having the two of them in midfield, 34 and Partey, right now is our best midfield. I love Sambi. I think he's got a great future at the club, but he is very young. His game still needs a lot of development, and he has been, found wanting, I think, in some kind of key games. And every game now between the end of the season is a cup final. So I think you've got to go for the experience. Let's just hope he doesn't have a shocker, number 34, and he can actually play the 90 minutes without getting sent off. But yeah, I'd go with those two in the middle. Odegaard, I think he's kind of cemented that position as number 10, to be honest. I think he's come in and I think he's doing really, really, really well. I think the front three, I can't argue with. Saka keeps his spot. He's literally, made that position his own. I think Laka's doing a great job as captain. He's not scoring the goals that we probably all want him to score, but there's a lot more to his game. And if you look at the forwards that we've got at our disposal right now, he is our best option. So, Saka on the right, Laka up top. And I think bringing in ESR makes sense. We could say that, you could bring in Pepe. I personally can't see it. And I'm not sure if I want to see it, if I'm completely honest. I think it would just make sense. I think ESR's been somewhat unlucky, really, with the season he's having to actually be benched. I think, he's probably sitting there thinking, wow, like, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think he's too alarmed by it because I think he's a humble kid. But at the same time, when you look at the stats and you look at his performances, you'd probably think he was one of the first names on the team sheet. But Arteta has benched him, obviously, with the form of Martinelli. But yeah, I got no qualms with that lineup. If I saw that lineup tomorrow, I'd be more than happy. If I didn't see that lineup tomorrow and say he, kept ESR on the bench and brought in Pepe and obviously benched Tommy and brought in Cedric, again, I wouldn't be too disappointed. As I said at the beginning, I've been quite happy with Arteta's recent team sheets. I think we're seeing some real consistency and we're seeing the team take shape.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll read a couple of these comments and then we'll do some score predictions. So you guys drop your score predictions into the chat now. While I read these out. We've got to I'm putting that one up. Joe, number 34. Gio, Koff, Liao, Koff. Yeah, I mean, that's the AC Milan striker we're heavily linked with.
Me and Gio were having a conversation in the DMs about this earlier.
Yeah, I don't think Milan want to sell him. That's the thing. I think they definitely want to get him on a new team.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's going to take a hefty price to get him.
Yeah. Chris, for me, I think it will be Wolves' team with ESR instead of Martinelli. So obviously that's keeping Cedric at right back. Lee saying spot on. To Chris, obviously, I think Cedric will start again. Tommy will start against Wolves on Thursday from Ready. Also, well done to former Arsenal man GVB on a great result in Europe last night. Do you know what he's talking about?
No.
Giovanni van Bronckhorst.
Oh, yes.
Rangers beating Dortmund 4-2.
Yeah, quality result, man.
Chris, what's the prediction? Which player will get sent off this week? Funny enough, I was going to say we'll play a game of what minute will an Arsenal player get sent off.
No.
Because it's getting bad. I don't know. Did you see the United game the other night? And McTominay literally had his arms round the player trying to take a throw in, pulling him back. Not even a yellow card. Not even one yellow card, let alone two.
This is the consistency.
No consistency,
right?
Yeah. Lee, remember, ESR has had injuries. That's why he's been benched. I do think that's part of it. I think the fact that Martinelli's form, it's hard to drop Martinelli at the minute.
Yeah.
Martinelli is, for me, probably one of our best players right now.
Yeah.
Keith 4-1. I crave a vengeance. Lee 3-0. Ready 2-0. And Gio payback +1, 3-0 to the mighty Arsenal. And you know what, Gio, I'm going to take that as our charity bet this week because I'm just looking through the names here in the chat. Most of you guys have had their opportunity for the charity bet, so I'm going to take your prediction of 3-0 as our charity bet.
Nice.
And what I will do is I will just get the odds on that. For anybody that doesn't know, G, can you quickly explain our charity bet?
Yeah, so basically, we take a charity bet from a viewer or a guest every kind of preview show that we do. And basically, if you get it right, well, Stephen basically will place a £1 bet. And obviously, in a moment or two, he will get the odds. And whatever is returned will go to our chosen charity, which is the Northern Ireland Air Ambulance, which is a charity which is very close to Stephen's heart. Because they recently rescued his friend who was quite badly injured. Also, it's a completely charitable organization. It takes about £2 million a year in order for the charity and the organization to run. So they're solely dependent on basically people donating, etc., which is why for this season they are our chosen charity. So hopefully, Gioguna, you get the score right, because we've not had many right this season so far. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay, so 3-0 is 17-2. So our £1 charity bet would return £9.50 if it's 3-0.
Fingers crossed.
So fingers crossed, yeah. Thank you for that, Gio. We'll put that into the spreadsheet as well to help with the scores, because we do also have we have our Predictor League, which is you get 3 points for correct score, 1 point for a correct result. And this is obviously between me, G, Lottie, and then you guys as the guests, and the charity bet goes in on behalf of the guests. If one of us wins, then if I win, then G and Lottie are going to chip in and buy me a bottle of whiskey. If G wins, me and Lottie will chip in and buy you a bottle of brandy, wasn't it?
That's right.
Yeah. And if Lottie wins, then we will chip in, me and G will chip in and buy her a bottle of tequila rosé. And if the viewers / guests win, then we will take the money that we would have chipped in for a bottle and we'll add it to the charity money.
Yeah.
And we'll donate that to the charity as well. So, G, what are you saying?
I'm going to go with an Arsenal win. I think it's going to be comfortable, but not as comfortable as a lot of people are suggesting, because I do think that we are still a little bit toothless up front. But I'm going to go with a comfortable 2-0 win.
2-0. Okay.
Yeah.
I will message Lottie in the morning and get her prediction.
Aim is really getting 2-0.
Because I forgot to do that. Chris saying ESR to get sent off in the 63rd minute.
Oh, don't say that, Chris. Can't do it.
John Fiddler, good evening, John. Is that a new name?
Possibly, possibly.
Not one I recognise. If it is, welcome to the channel. Great to have you with us. Make sure and hit the subscribe button. And for everybody else, make sure and hit that like button while we're doing this. For me, I'm going to say 2-1. 2-1 to Arsenal. I think it's going to be tight. I'd love to see us get the 3-0 for obviously the goal difference, the clean sheet, and for our charity bet. But I think I do think it'll be tight. I worry about us scoring. And whilst we have been doing well with the clean sheets, we do still have the odd mistake in us. So I do still think potentially, and yeah, Ridley's just made a very good point. John Moss is in charge tomorrow.
Yeah,
so
I saw that, and I just as soon as I saw that comment, my heart sank.
Yeah, the problem with it is though, at the minute, it doesn't seem to matter who the referee is. We seem to have the same
just having a ref period.
You know, as soon as we see the ref's name, we kind of go, "Oh, not him." But it's pretty much every ref in the league these days. Gio flexing his muscles there. As I say, hopefully, I really would love the 3-0 win. That's kind of it then. Obviously,
yeah, pretty much
3 o'clock kickoff. It's unusual. it's a strange one. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, not really, to be honest. I just think it's like where we obviously only got these Premier League games now. It's like the distance between some of these games is so long. Like honestly, I'm just glad. Like even though I'm not gonna have the pleasure of watching it live, you know, I'm working tomorrow, but I'm always checking my phone anyway. I got the live updates. I'll be jumping on Twitter, and to be honest, the Twitter reaction from the fans is quicker than even the news, Sky Sports News and that. So yeah, I'm sure all of you guys on Twitter will be keeping me posted. But yeah, I'm not gonna have the pleasure of watching it, but I'll definitely catch the highlights. But yeah, it's just good to have the Arsenal back. Good to, you know, obviously have a game, and I just hope, you know what I mean, the lads turn up, put in a performance, and get somewhat of revenge from the earlier on in the season, and just keep pushing for that top 4 spot, because, you know, as you said earlier, it's a lot trickier than people are saying, but it's definitely within reach. But yeah, no, other than that, I'm all good. What about you? You got anything on your mind that you want to talk about in terms of Arsenal?
Not really, no. I think we pretty much covered everything. I seen a comment there. We'll come to in a wee sec. But sort of on that note, what I'll do is I'll call last orders.
Yeah.
I like running with this pub theme, so we're going to call last orders to get your final questions or comments in before we'll lock up for the night. While we're waiting on you guys putting your last sort of comments and questions and stuff in, G, can you do the needful with the socials?
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, thank you guys first and foremost, obviously, for joining us live. Those of you, you know, who are with us live, or those of you catching up a little bit later, massively appreciate the support as always. If you want to follow us on our social media platforms, if you don't for whatever reason, please do that straight after tonight's show. Facebook, it was down at some point this week. Me and Stephen have no clue as to why it was down. I just got a notification to say it was down. I told Stephen, we appealed it, we got it back. So good news on that front. So yeah, if you do want to follow us, follow our Facebook page, that's at Cannon Chatter. If you want to follow us on Instagram, it's at Cannon_Chatter. And if you want to follow us on TikTok, we're not really massively active at the moment, but I've just made my own TikTok just because I want to get to know a little bit about the platform itself before I kind of start posting stuff on Cannon Chatter. But if you are on TikTok and you want to follow us, go ahead and do so. And that's at Cannon_Chatter. Most of you will know us from Twitter. Most of you guys in the chat, you know, we interact with you, whether that's via tweets, comments, DMs, etc. If for whatever reason you don't know, you need to get to know, we do have a Cannon Chatter official Twitter, and that is simply at Cannon Chatter. If you want to follow Stephen, that's at SB Cannon Chatter. If you want to follow myself, that's at G Talks Arsenal. And if you want to follow Lottie, who's not with us tonight, that's at Lottie_B, and that's 2 T's and 2 I's because somebody beat her to it.
Just on the Twitter thing, we talked before about setting up a Discord server and stuff like that. I'm not going to go down that route, but what I will do, if anybody's interested, hit me up with a DM after the show tonight or at any point over the next few days. What I think we might do is create a group within Twitter.
Nice.
You know, obviously we can add up to, I think it's about 75 people to start with. So if you want to be involved in like a group chat, a Cannon Chatter group chat, I'll gladly set one of those up. So if you'd like to be involved in that, drop me a wee message and I'll get you added into it. I'll set that up over the next couple of days and add anybody in that wants to be involved. And it'll just kind of be a continuation on of what it's like here in the show. You know, I would expect everybody just to get on with each other and have good-natured banter and conversations and enjoy the chat.
And
Back to you.
Yeah, make sure you do subscribe, turn on those notifications, and hit that like button, please.
Okay, thank you. All right, so last orders. That's how we look. See what comments have come in. Really, thoughts on the potential stadium renovations? So obviously they've come out and said that, you know, they're going to be doing a lot of stuff. They're obviously making, fixing the roof, taking down the Legends banner, by the sounds of it, and replacing it with something, fixing up the badges and stuff like that on the outside, and spending what potentially is going to be a few million quid, fixing up the stadium. I did see, obviously, Paul Merson's comments today of why they're wasting money fixing up the stadium. Spend that money on the players.
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
Yeah, it's all separate budgets though, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's like, obviously, like with Arsenal fans, I'm not having a go at Paul Merson, but I get it. It's all emotions, isn't it? As fans, we get emotional about it, but when you think about it, it's BAU, it's business as usual. It's stuff that any organization, any company does. Any organization I've worked for will do it. Every now and then they paint the walls, bring in new desks and chairs, and give everybody a new flashy laptop. Do you know what I mean? It's just, it is what it is. So for me, it's, they're different budgets. Obviously, what they're doing to the stadium is not something that's going to have any impact on recruitment or anything like that. It's completely separate. But I get the frustration. Obviously, with the January window, didn't go as most Arsenal fans had planned. But yeah, I think the stadium needs a new lick of paint. I've not been there too often because I moved obviously to the coast. But the last couple of times I went, it does need what, somewhat of a refurbishment. So yeah, I'm happy with it really. If they need to spend a couple of million quid to fix up the stadium and make it look a lot more nicer, more presentable for the fans, then I'm all for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how big I am on sort of brand.
Yeah.
Brand image and stuff. And that's why if you look, what we're trying to build here on Cannon Chatter, as I say, is I always refer to it as a family thing. And, we want to be a family all chatting together and enjoying the conversation and stuff. But in order for us to do that, to me, it's important we keep the brand. And that's why if you look across all our social platforms and everything's the same. It's all uniformed.
Mm-hmm.
If we change, apart from obviously the Cannon Chatter arms is slightly different. But if you look at our main branding, if one thing changes, they all change with it.
Yeah.
And it's good to refresh things. We did it at the start of the season. We changed our entire branding at the start of the season. And the likelihood is, and if Martin's watching, I'm sorry, Martin, but the likelihood is that come the start of next season, we'll rebrand again.
Yeah.
We'll keep obviously the Cannon Chatter and the main Cannon Chatter logo, but we always want to update and rebrand and change things up and freshen the look of things.
Yeah.
And keep it fresh in people's minds. So I mean, yeah, I have no issue with them spending money. Paul Merson, just by the way, is a Chelsea fan. So he needs to go and worry about Stamford Bridge. I love Merce. Merce is the reason I support Arsenal.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes he needs to just be quiet. All right, Gio, we'll take a gin. Lee, great show, guys. Take care all. Gio's saying take care. Chris, stadium needs serious work. Even those Legends banners now look tired and faded. They need brightening up. Also, 2-3 million on it won't break the bank. Absolutely.
Yeah,
cheers, folk. Great show as always. On the tomorrow, come on, you Gunners from Ready. And there's Martinez watching. I'm ready.
Yes, Martin.
Just giving you plenty of notice, Martin. You can start working on it in your free time. Not that you have much of it these days, but because you're so busy with all your other stuff. But yeah, you can start your branding process for next season. Arsenal have got their kits already for next season. They just haven't been released. So
that's
we can work ahead and get our branding ready for next season. Great show as always. Thank you, Martin. Right. In terms of shows coming up, just before we go quickly, we will be back early next week with a review. We obviously have Wolves next Thursday, I believe.
Thursday night.
Yeah, so we'll do a sort of a preview review show. And then great show, fellas. Obviously, take care. Anyone in the chat from Keith. After that, the only other thing I can sort of think of that is sort of definite right now, that I can give you a definite date on, is please keep the 1st of March free. 9 p.m. on the 1st of March, we will be doing a show. It's going to be a really special show. Really special for me and G. And hopefully all you guys will join us. I don't want to say too much about it right now, but we will have some fun and some games. It will be similar in terms of styling to our Christmas special and our Halloween special and stuff. But yeah, it's a special one for me and G. So please make sure and join us for that on the 1st. Keep that free. And hopefully you will all come along and get involved in it. Enjoy that show. G, any final words?
No, other than stay indoors, stay safe, and come on, you Gunners.
Yeah, absolutely. As G says, tonight, especially with the wind and stuff, if you're in the UK, stay safe. If you're not in the UK and not being battered by Storm Eunice, come on, you Gunners. Have a great weekend. We will see you all, as I say, early next week, probably Monday or Tuesday. And yeah, other than that, keep chatting.